All right. So, hey, YouTubers, Michael and I are going to do something completely different than what I've ever seen done before. We're going to do a pre-action video, not a reaction video, but a pre-action video. And kind of the story about what's going to happen here is I had a speaking engagement up in Georgetown, which is north of San Antonio, and it's also north of where Michael lives. Say hi to everybody, Michael.
Hi, everyone.
Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, sure. So I grew up in the Mormon church, was there for 32 years, and became an amateur apologist for the LDS church. So I published a book called A Biblical Defense of Mormonism. I was debating Christians in person on Facebook and on podcasts. You can still hear some of those podcasts to this day. They're still out there. And in 2015, I decided I was going to study grace to become a more effective weapon in my debates. And I found that it didn't teach biblically what I'd been taught as a Mormon. And so after a year of studying it, it changed my position. I came to understand imputed righteousness, that Jesus was righteous on our behalf. And that completely shifted my worldview. And in 2016, in April, I came to a saving faith in Jesus Christ. So that's my background.
Amen. Awesome. All right. So, Michael, the ex-Mormon, we've got a common friend. His name is Damien. And I guess now we have a common friend. There was a guy that I had met way back in 2002, which I call the Mormon Olympics, when the Olympics were held in Salt Lake City, the Winter Olympics. And I met a guy there named Marlon. And way back then, he remembered that not only do I witness to Mormons, but I also do Jehovah's Witnesses. So sometime last year, he contacted me and asked me if I had any ex-JWs or ex-Mormons who would be willing to come and give their testimony. So I contacted you and Damien, and you guys went and did that. And I didn't go, but I heard it was very well received. I told Marlon that I didn't have any ex-Jehovah's Witnesses in the area. They've all kind of moved out or done their own things now. So I don't really have an ex-JW that I could have him go and interview or give their testimony. So I offered to do some teaching, which he thought was good. So couple of days, I guess, before I went up there, Marlon asks me if Michael and Damien are going to come. And I knew that Damien couldn't come because of something he had posted on Facebook, but I didn't know about Michael. So I chatted something to Michael, says, hey, no pressure. I know this last minute. I don't know if you're going to come or not. Marlon's asking, so let me know. And then it's like 18 minutes later, something like that. You get you sent me a message. What was that message?
Okay, I don't remember exactly. I might have to look real quick.
You said, I have Jehovah's Witnesses at my door right now.
That's right. I was getting ready to message you and say, hey, I can't come. I've got an engagement. And then there's a knock on my door, and there's these two elderly Jehovah's Witnesses at my door. And I'm just like, is this a sign? What are the odds that Keith asks me if I'm coming to hear about Jehovah's Witnesses and they show up at my door? They never come to my door.
Yeah, I timed that really well, didn't I?
You did.
Send them right over to your house. So anyway, because that happened and because of how weird it was, I had the idea of this pre-action video. Why don't we talk a little bit about what is probably going to happen in these upcoming sessions that you're going to have with these two guys? And I've done coaching before, so I wanted people to kind of see how that looks, because I can coach people individually, but to be able to record something like this and put it on YouTube, I think will be beneficial for a lot of people who are meeting with JWs. So yeah, so tell me what happened when they showed up. You're like, oh no.
So yeah, I talked to them outside my door probably for a good 30 minutes. Just kind of talking. They didn't really bring up any sort of distinct doctrine that they hold. They just said they wanted to share a message from the Bible, and which they did. They shared some verse out of Isaiah, and it didn't really say anything that I didn't already believe.
Right.
So I was kind of like, well, what's the point of this? Kind of actually felt a little bit like a Mormon missionary tactic to an extent, where you're just going and trying to make people comfortable and not really uh, throw a rock in the water, so to speak. You're not trying to
Right.
cause waves. You're just trying to kind of slowly get in there so you can build line upon line and precept upon precept. But they sent me a video, which honestly I haven't watched at this point. Uh, and that was it. They didn't really ask if they could come back or anything.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. But we did talk a little bit about my background, so I
That's
kind of
good.
told them where I was coming from, and they didn't know much about Mormonism, so I kind of just told them some of the unique doctrines to Mormonism, and they were appalled. By the way, they think Mormons are crazy. Uh, and I don't know much about what they believe, so that was pretty one sided. But I figured I'd talk to you and then reach back out to them and see about setting up an appointment or something.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Usually, the first thing I tell people is that when you start talking with Jehovah's Witnesses, there are some things that you should do, and there are some things that you don't do. And in this particular instance, what I usually tell people is don't jump in with both feet. And I think that's kind of what I said to you is don't go at them or something like that.
Mhm.
And you don't want to just rush in. A lot of pastors will say, "Oh, hit him with John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and Jesus was God." And there's a whole lot into that most Christians don't understand, that Jehovah's Witnesses are totally prepared to discuss that verse and other verses. They're wrong with their interpretations, but they are more prepared to talk about that than the average Christian is. So the number one thing, and I've got this article on my website. I forget the exact title, but it's something about student role teaching.
Hmm.
And what you want to do is, instead of trying to be the teacher and teach them something, you want to take the role of the student, ask questions. That way, when they're teaching you, you basically control the conversation with the questions. And because they're the teacher and you're the student, they're going to feel obligated to teach you. So instead of having two people trying to attack each other, it becomes more of a conversation where you're asking questions, they're teaching, you're asking clarifying questions, they're taking you to Bible verses, that kind of thing. It turns more into a conversation than a confrontation. So I would encourage you to read that article. It just gives kind of tips on some of what I just explained. Just kind of take things slow. The way that I encourage people is you've got a garden hose and you've got a fire hose. And if you're trying to plant seeds in fertile soil, you don't want to use a fire hose because it all goes away. Use the garden
Right.
hose, sprinkle it in. So that's what I encourage people to do. If you've got a long-term plan. A lot of people don't have a long-term plan. You meet them in the airport or on a corner or something, and then there are other things that you can use to talk to folks about with the fire hose. But when it's something like this, where you're going to have a regular meeting with them, you want to completely change the way that you talk with them. So
So, so that's interesting. If you don't mind me just jumping in like for a second, but what's interesting about that is the exact same approach that I take if I'm talking to two Mormon missionaries. By
yep,
the way, my first conversation has very little to do with even talking about doctrine. It's
right.
just exchanging, war stories, so to speak, like what's happened on your mission. Let me tell you about some of the crazy stuff that happened on mine. And then it turns into more discussions down the road. Um, so yeah, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's, I mean, same ideas with different groups. It kind of it works, because you want to treat them as human beings, because that's what they are. They're humans just like we are. They've got their faults, they've got their good points, and you want to build a rapport, build a relationship with them if they give you enough time to do that. So they're probably. Did you download the app, by the way?
I did. Yeah, I
Okay,
just
good.
downloaded. I got it on my phone.
Okay, awesome. Do you have a tablet or no?
I don't have a tablet. I just have my phone,
Okay.
unfortunately.
All right. Well, the only reason I say tablet is because it's a lot bigger and it's easier to take notes and that kind of thing on it. So if you go to like the home page
Okay,
and you're going to see favorites, teaching toolbox, and what's new, you see that?
I do.
Okay. By the way, since this is the first time doing this, I don't know how to like screen share. Like I could do this on my iPad, I'm sure, and have you and me in a corner and then actually do a screen share kind of thing so that folks could see what it is that we're looking at. So sorry, but hopefully things will change in the future. But if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to download the app and follow along, right? So, all right, and if you look in our teaching toolbox, kind of go over to the right a little bit, you'll see Enjoy Life Forever. Enjoy Life Forever, the purple one. This is the book that they are going through now with their studies. That's what they're going to call you to other people. Oh yeah, I have a study. His name is Michael. He's an ex-Mormon and he's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see this Enjoy Life Forever, and then it's got 4 sections.
Okay, so I don't see the 4 sections. I just clicked on it and I think it's downloading it right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, but I did find it on my laptop, so I can
Okay.
see it all.
Okay, cool. So you'll see the 4 sections and then the Bible reading charts there.
Yes, I do see it.
Okay, I'm just going to use the website too because then we're on the same page here. All right, so you're probably going to start just the way that they're going to want to do it is section 1 and section 1 with lesson 1. Excuse me.
Okay.
They
How
may
can the
go
Bible
through.
help you?
What's that?
Oh, it's how can the Bible help you? Okay.
Yeah. So they may ask you to go through the how to get the most out of this Bible course and all that kind of stuff. And if you were to look up, like go to just Google and type in JW Library Tutorial, there will be some links of places on their website. And then I saw some just today, actually. This looks like an individual Jehovah's Witness is going through and kind of showing you how to use the app. It may be dated though, because some of his videos are a few years old. But
I do see those videos, yeah.
yeah, so I've never, I mean, I can go to different things and make tags and highlight stuff, but I haven't gone anywhere near in depth as I should. So I'll be checking out those tutorials myself. So, all right. So lesson 1 in section 1, how can the Bible help you? Excuse me. This is just real basic. There's not going to be much that you're not going to agree with yourself. It's one of the things that they do is they write their publications on a very, very low reading level. And
Oh,
yeah, so they've actually, I mean, it's, I hate to use the phrase, but they really do dumb it down for people. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's almost insulting. It's like, oh, are you kidding me? It's not helpful. But they really do bring it down to the level that most kids could understand even. And again, this stuff is just real basic. Most of this is just questions with a couple of different verses that you can look up to see exactly what it is that the publication itself is saying. Depending on certain verses that they bring out, it might be a good idea to just look at the verses and see what they say. Most of them are going to be, okay, I get this. But every now and then they're going to have things that are just totally ripped out of context. And those would be good, not necessarily to challenge, but just say, where did they get that idea? I don't understand that. I'm just reading this and I don't see that in here. Those kind of things, when they add up, they'll kind of start bothering them a little bit because a lot of what they quote is either mistranslated, out of context, or allegorized. So it's easy to have doctrinal changes when they allegorize things. Those doctrinal changes are called new light.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Sounds a little bit familiar. Farther light and knowledge.
That's
Wow.
right. That's right. Progressive revelation. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to find that as an ex-Mormon, this what's kind of cool about this is you're an ex-Mormon Christian who's going to be reaching out to Jehovah's Witnesses, and you're going to find a lot of things that are in common.
Hmm.
So every now and then, kind of be careful when you do that. But when they teach something, it would be good to kind of reach back in your history and say, oh yeah, that sounds very similar to this. And they're probably going to be intrigued by that because you've got some of the same, not necessarily beliefs, but some of the same tactics and even arguments.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you talked about not ripping things out of context, I'm like, oh yeah, I did tons of that when I was a Mormon.
You're an expert,
Uh,
right?
absolutely, I'm one of the best at doing that.
Yeah. Okay, so going through section one or lesson one in section one, there really isn't a whole lot here that is, let me go through it. There really isn't a whole lot there that you can point out, except if you go down to number 6. Yeah, number 6, where it says others can help us to understand the Bible.
Okay, let me see if I can find that spot.
Excuse me.
Okay, I don't see where it says others can help us. Oh no, sorry, that is the yeah. I see it.
Okay. So this is, in addition to reading the Bible on their own, many have found that discussing it with others is helpful. Read Acts 8:26-31, and then discuss this question: how can we understand the Bible? Okay, so you want to read those verses, and then we can talk about those.
Yes, I'm gonna read them, but I feel like I already know where this is going.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. However, Jehovah's angel spoke to Philip, saying, get up and go to the south of the road that runs down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is a desert road. With that, he got up and went, and look, an Ethiopian eunuch, a man who had authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who was in charge of all her treasure. He had gone to Jerusalem to worship, and he was returning and was sitting in his chariot, reading aloud the prophet Isaiah. So the Spirit said to Philip, go over and approach this chariot. Philip ran alongside and heard him reading aloud Isaiah the prophet, and he said, do you actually know what you are reading? He said, really, how could I ever do so unless someone guided me? So he urged Philip to get on and sit down with him.
Any idea where that's going?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Only our leaders are able to interpret scripture.
that's right. That's right.
Mhm.
And what's cool about this is, I'm glad you read through in their translation. This is called the New World Translation, NWT. I refer to it as the new way to twist it. So it's really awkward. A lot of the ways they translate some of these verses, like at the end. So he urged Philip to get on and sit down with him. Just kind of like, okay, yeah, all right, let's just be really, really um, not formal. I don't know what the word is. I'm casual. Yeah, let's just be real casual. So you're right. This is exactly where that's going.
Yeah, that translation feels a little Texan. Get
Texan?
on and sit down.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that last part. So you're exactly right with where this is going. And this is a good place to ask some questions because this is something that you can relate to as a former Mormon. So, like if you were to explain this as a Mormon and you're a missionary and you're back and you're talking to somebody in their living room, how would you explain this passage?
If I was Mormon
Yeah,
still, or if I was okay, yeah. So basically what I would want to point out is that the Bible is well, I'd be saying it was flawed as a Mormon. I'd be saying that it's been corrupted, and that one of the reasons it's not really what's the word I'm looking for, authoritative,
mm,
is because so many people can read the Bible and they come up with different interpretations, and that's why we have a prophet, and our leaders are able to interpret what is being said based on the Spirit, and to give us new light and knowledge to help us know what this scripture is saying, and without their guidance we would be lost.
right. Okay, so that's exactly the direction that they're coming from. That what they're going to do later on, and they're not going to do this right away. And the way that they even answer or ask the question is, let me see, where does it go down at the bottom here? Let's see. Yeah, if you look at right underneath the picture there, it says the Ethiopian man needed help to understand the scriptures. Many people today find it helpful to discuss the Bible with others. That sounds very innocent, innocuous, but what that's kind of a code for Jehovah's Witnesses is I can't understand the Bible without them, without the Watchtower organization. So the Watchtower is really two things. It's an organization and it's a publication. And instead of having a prophet, they have what they call the faithful and discreet slave from Matthew chapter 24. It's a parable, and they turn into doctrine. So that's what's coming down the road. So I wouldn't necessarily jump right on this now and say, hey, this is what I believed as a Mormon, and I sure hope we're not going to go down this direction, which you'd want to, or you'd feel like you would want to say that, but you don't want to jump on that right away. Maybe write it down and just say, hey, tell me a little bit more about that. They will explain.
So I've got a question about that, because at least in Mormonism, there was a reason that these men could interpret the scriptures better than I could, and that's because they had a calling. They had this mantle that gave them the power to do it. Is there anything like that with the Watchtower organization? Like, what gives them the ability to interpret scripture better than the average person? Like, what would a Jehovah's Witness say?
That's a great question. And this is where the allegorization, is that even a word? If not, I just made it up. But that's where the allegory comes into, and this is going to sound weird. Okay. There's a lot of Mormon stuff that sounds weird, and it's hard to explain it without sounding like you're making fun of it. But the same is true with Jehovah's Witnesses. They've got a lot of weird doctrine that is difficult to explain without sounding like I'm making fun of it. But and this teaching has gone through different stages of new light. So where we're at now is completely different than what the founder originally taught. But basically, the parable of the faithful and discreet slave, they call him a slave. If you go to Matthew chapter 24, in verses 45, excuse me, man, 45 through 47. I'm actually going to read this out of their translation here. Actually, no, it's more fun to have you read it.
Do you want me to? All I have is my ESV here. So if you wanted me to read it from theirs, I probably need to look it up.
Yeah, you can do it on the website.
On their website, okay.
Yeah, they've got their Bible on the website.
Okay, let me see if I can spot that. Is it under library?
There should be. Let me go to it. Bible. Yeah, it will be on their library. But if you go to home and library, then right underneath library, you'll see Bibles.
Okay, let me go to library. Bibles, yes. Yep. Okay.
So
New World Translation.
And you're going to want to choose the first one there mentioned. It's over. It says the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures Study Edition.
Okay, I'm in there, and I'm going to Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew 24.
Okay, and then what verses?
45 through 47.
Okay, let's see what it says. Who really is the faithful and discreet slave whom his master appointed over his domestics to give them their food at the proper time? Happy is that slave if his master on coming finds him doing so. Truly I say to you, he will appoint him over all his belongings.
Okay, so that's just a parable. But the way that Jehovah's Witnesses have interpreted that, the way that they interpret it now, is that God needed a faithful and discreet slave to give food, spiritual food at the proper time to his fellow servants. And in 1919, Jesus was inspecting all of the religions of the world and found one that he could call the faithful and discreet slave. So, what Jehovah's Witnesses do today is they look at this organization, the Watchtower, as that faithful and discreet slave. And the Watchtower's job is to give them spiritual food at the proper time. And proper time, that's basically like, okay, there's certain food that's good for now, and then it spoils, and then we get new light. So they won't call it spoiled food, but basically that's what happens is they keep changing the doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
So just like
Sounds
Mormonism
familiar.
has the, I'm
Yep.
sorry, go ahead.
So I was just saying it sounds so familiar. Like this is why we need ongoing revelation, because
Right.
the Bible's obsolete. That's from a different time. We've got new challenges now. So
Exactly right. And that's why they're giving you this passage early on about the Ethiopian eunuch, because you need help to understand the Bible. And of course, they're the only ones who are going to be able to do that. And the authority is because Jesus has chosen their religion to be his servant, his faithful servant or slave, as they call him. It and that's the only information that you can really understand or follow. If you were to ask them to read something online about Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, they would warn you and say, no, I'm not interested in looking at that. They are totally, now I know a lot of Mormons do that too, but this is like times like 100.
oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they really don't want people to get on the internet and check out what what former Jehovah's Witnesses have to say. Or even people like me. I've never been a Jehovah's Witness, so I'm not an apostate, but I am what they would consider an opposer. So because I'm opposing the organization. So that's their authority, is you've got this faithful and discreet slave, the Watchtower. They're going to give you the literature, and that's where you're going to get the food that Jesus wants you to have. Oh, but by the way, they're not inspired.
Okay, I didn't think so. I mean, it sounds like a cult to me.
No, but see what they'll do is they teach two opposite things. They get their food from Jesus, but it's not inspired. And that, yeah, I know, plausible
Oh, so,
deniability, really.
so they actually say that the Watchtower is not inspired.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually say that. And that's them saying, see, we've never claimed to be inspired. But then I can also show you references. I don't have it memorized, but I can show you references where it says that you're to obey the Watchtower as if it's the voice of God.
Oh, that sounds inspired to me.
Yeah, kind of hard to have a non-inspired message from God. And I actually asked a Jehovah's Witness elder that one time, does God have any non-inspired messages? And he said, yes. And I'm like, you're going to have
Okay.
to, yeah, explain that to me. So that's their authority structure. And let me go back to, all right. But that's the only thing, point number 6, that's the only thing that I would ask a couple more questions on at that point, and just say that kind of sounds familiar to something that I have been taught or even taught as a Mormon missionary, and then just kind of tuck that back. Just hang on to it, because there will come a time later on when you definitely want to use that. So, but it's a good place to just take some notes. Oh, and that's another thing. Take notes, seriously, because after you meet with these guys, I would like to do a reaction video, and you can mention how things went. Tell me how the thing went, and we can talk about things from there. So,
Sounds good.
any
All
other
right, I
questions you
will.
might have had, or something like that, things that they brought up that's like, what? Where are they getting this? So, let's see.
Would it be a bad idea to invite them and the Mormon missionaries over at the same time?
I've always wanted to see a tag team death match like that. That would be great. Unfortunately, though, when it comes to knowing their own beliefs, the Jehovah's Witnesses would take the Mormons every time.
Mm,
Yeah, they really, really study this stuff. So, yeah.
good to know. Okay.
So, do we want to stop here and start another video? Did you have any questions, or you want to move on to the next lesson? What do you want to do?
I think we could go ahead and start another video, go to the next lesson. I think
Okay.
that'd be fun.
All right. Cool. Now we're in lesson 2 of the Enjoy Life Forever book. And I was mentioning that this book really gets into some eschatology, the end times, but it doesn't get really heavy into it. Let's see. I don't know what your personal eschatology is, but when you think of anything Jehovah's Witness related, I mean, it's the Armageddon. It's the end times. That's what they're all about. And
Wow.
well, yeah, and the faithful discreet slave, because Jesus picked him in 1919, the end of the end or the beginning of the end, depending on who you listen to, started at 1914, and that generation that saw those events are not supposed to pass away until Armageddon comes. Well, they keep reinterpreting that. So it's not just that generation, it's the generation that saw that generation of 1914. So,
Okay.
yeah, in fact, you know what I'm going to do with this? I'm going to put a clip in here where one of their governing body members, that's this faithful and discreet slave, that's the head guys in the watchtower, where he actually says the end of the end of the end kind of thing. And it's like, are you listening to yourself? It's crazy.
We're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.
Yeah, but lesson 2 gets into some of that, not really heavy, but like if I were to tell you, is there a number that you can think of with Jehovah's Witnesses? Just throw out a
Of
number.
course. Yeah,
What?
of course there is. Yeah,
What?
144,000.
144,000, that's right. See, now the doctrine is that only 144,000 are going to end up in heaven. Now, a lot of Christians misunderstand that and say, oh, well, then, gee, why should I be a Jehovah's Witness? Because I'm not going to go to heaven, so what's the point? What they don't understand is that all other Jehovah's Witnesses are expected to live here in paradise earth. Okay? So 144,000 live with Jesus. Everybody else lives here on earth. So that is a huge part of their theology. So when they talk about the afterlife, 99.9% of Jehovah's Witnesses are talking about living here forever on earth. Whereas most Christians would say, well, I'm going to go to heaven when I die, and I'm going to live with Jesus there forever. My personal theology is different. I believe that when I die, I am going to go to heaven, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stay there. I do believe that the kingdom of God comes down in a physical sense, and that God dwells with his people here on the earth. So that's my own personal theology. So when I say personal theology, I don't mean that I made it up, but that's what I believe based off of what I've read. Other people, yeah, I got my own translation of the Bible too, Keith Walker translation. So, yeah, so that's what I've read. That's what I learned. It's what makes more sense to me. They, on the other hand, will try to get Christians or anybody else to understand the idea that they're not going to go to heaven when they die. They're only going to be here forever on earth. So what they will do is they'll talk about paradise, okay, paradise earth. And, if you think about Hawaii, can you imagine living in Hawaii for all eternity? And
Okay.
yeah, you could go with that. Yeah. Take the racism away and it'd be great, right? My wife grew up there, so she got jumped because she was white. So yeah. Anyway, so this is kind of what chapter 2 is starting to get into, the hope that we have for eternity, and kind of what the Bible describes as, like in a lot of the passages in Isaiah, where it talks about the lamb and the lion together, and those kind of things. Everything's just going to be hunky dory. Now, if you let's see, where is it?
Do they believe that it's better to be in heaven than to be on earth, even though being on earth is great and most people will be on earth? Is there a difference? Like, I'm thinking about Mormonism, where there's a celestial kingdom, the terrestrial. Are they kind of saying the same thing?
That is a great question, and I'm glad you brought it out. And I'm glad that you made the correlation to Mormonism. Yes, there is a huge distinction, and they will try to tell you that there's really no difference between those who go to heaven, the 144,000. They're also called the anointed, and the rest of the people called the great crowd, who are going to live here forever on earth. So they're going to rule with Jesus, 144,000, but they're no better than we are. Well,
Okay.
yeah. How does that work? If somebody is ruling over me like a king kind of thing, then I am a subject. And when it comes to humanity, the king is no better than I am. But when it comes to position, power, authority, we're talking about something totally different. So yeah, with Mormonism, you've got the three levels of heaven. The more righteous you are, the closer to God you are. Actually, with the celestial kingdom, it's not so with Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, when they talk about living in heaven, that's reserved for those 144,000. And the doctrine used to be, it was actually made more sense way back when. You tell me if this makes sense. Okay. You had to be a baptized
Okay.
Jehovah's Witness by the year 1935 for you to be able to go to heaven.
Oh, so the door's already shut, is what you're saying. There's no more.
That's the old doctrine. Remember, we have new life. Okay.
Yes.
So, like, I forget how many years ago it was, 20 years ago or so. I'd have to look it up. But they actually changed the doctrine to where the door's no longer shut. Now it's open. And there's no real way to know if you are one of the anointed or not. But what they will say is, if you have to ask the question, you're not, because you'll know. And then they'll use Romans chapter 8 as a proof text for that. You know you're a child of God. So if you're even asking the question, then you're not. So yeah, it used to be 1935. Now it's not tied to any date at all. It's just something that you feel within yourself. We're thinking Mormon testimony here, right? It's that feeling.
Yeah.
But if you claim to be of the anointed and you're not old, they'll claim one or two things. Either that's a holdover from a previous religion, maybe you're still holding on to the doctrine of heaven, or you've got some emotional problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they view their leaders as being anointed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Regardless
so
of
the
their
leaders
age.
are part of it.
Yes. So
Okay.
those guys are going to rule with Jesus in heaven. But to answer your original question, they really don't have what they call a heavenly hope. Again, that's the 99.9%. So, in fact, my wife and I, Becky, we were talking with the Jehovah's Witness one time. We were meeting with him at a Dairy Queen. Actually, we met with him weekly, and we got to talking about this doctrine, and we're talking about going to heaven. We're talking about being with Jesus, and he's like, "No, that's not my hope. I'll be here forever on earth." And I said, "Wouldn't you want to be in heaven with Jesus?" And he kind of did one of these things. No, that's not for me.
Hmm.
And it was like, are you kidding me? Wow. He was kind of dreaming, and then it was like reality snapped him right back into the seat that we were in. And yeah, that's not for him. So Jehovah's Witnesses will say they don't want to go to heaven because that's not their calling. And it's Jehovah's job to call whoever is going to rule. So, yeah.
Man. That's
You look
depressing.
distressed.
Yeah. I mean, at least Mormons want to go to the highest heaven, and they want to be in the presence of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So that is a big shift right there. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it is, and they're conditioned to believe that. So on one hand, they'll say that these people aren't any better, and then on the other hand, how can you be ruling with Jesus and not be at a completely different status? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So they're resigned to the fact that they're just going to live here forever on earth, and they're okay with that because it'll still be God's kingdom, and we're still getting benefits. So
Do they still get to be in God's presence? Like, does he come down
no,
like to earth? No,
no,
so not even in the presence ever. Like,
no,
okay.
no. Yeah, the earth is his footstool. So yeah, I don't remember the reference right off the top of my head. That's something in Revelation that they quote a lot. So they're totally content with being here forever on earth because they're all going to have jobs and you look at all their artwork and it's always some paradise condition with lions and tigers and everything sitting next to children or whatever. So yeah, so be prepared that you'll get into some of that. And again, I don't know what you believe about the afterlife, but when I talk to them and I tell them that, yeah, I do believe I'm going to go to heaven, I'm just not going to stay here or stay there, that I will come back, they're shocked by that because they don't hear that from most Christians. So when they talk about the earth lasting forever and people being here, they totally expect an argument, really, to talk about heaven versus earth.
Yeah, I talked to one guy who was Jehovah's Witness just briefly, and he brought out that argument, and I said, well, I believe, the New Jerusalem does come to earth, and that we're going to dwell there,
Right.
like I even brought up a verse in Matthew from the Beatitudes, right? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And
Yep.
his eyes just went wide, like, what? Like, you're not supposed to be telling me that. I'm supposed to tell you.
Yeah.
tell
Well,
you that.
and the JWs that you're going to meet with, it'll be the same. It'll be the same way. If you mention that, looking at this, like they've got a contrast chart here. No one will versus everyone will, and no one will have pain, weaken with age, experience injustice or war, and then all the good stuff is you'll see the dead loved ones resurrected. You'll be healthy and have energy and eat all kinds of healthy foods. And I mean, it's an appealing message. So when
And you get your hair back, right?
you get what?
You get your hair back, right?
Well, you do. Mine changes color.
Nice. That is appealing.
Yeah. But yeah, they just look at that as their eventual eternity. And when you say that, quoting the same thing, the people are going to reside here forever on earth, that's going to give them hope actually for you, because now they don't have to argue that point with you. It's like, oh wow, you actually believe something closer to what the Bible says. That's what they're going to be thinking. So
Okay.
I think we can pretty much stop here and see how things go. I guess our next video will be you telling me how things went, and make sure that you take a lot of notes. That way we can kind of go through those and take it from there.
Okay. So so with these first two lessons, or I guess going through these two lessons that we just kind of talked about, my role is just to kind of internalize it and just kind of maybe ask a couple of questions, but I'm not going after them.
No, you're
at
not
this
challenging them. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's going to come in handy later on. Okay. Because and there are things I could probably find something on every page of the Watchtower that I could look at and disagree with, but there's no point to really do that. You want to pick and choose your battles. And when you do that, it's got to be something that's going to make sense, because otherwise they're just going to view you as argumentative, and you don't want to be argumentative. So yeah, just
Okay.
take notes, ask clarifying questions, and yeah, just take it from there. One quick thing though too is some of these lessons actually have videos. Like if you're looking at it from your phone or iPad or whatever, they're going to have videos, and it can be anywhere from a couple minutes to like 10 minutes long. And as an ex-Mormon, you are going to cringe when you see the production quality of their videos.
Oh,
Yeah, because that is something that the Mormon Church does really, really well, is production. And this is, cringe is just like the perfect word. You're going to look at that and go, the actors aren't really actors. In fact, for their conferences, when they have these conventions, and they'll have like role play drama kind of things, they don't even give those people lines. It's all recorded. They just act it.
oh goodness. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Uh,
another level of control there. So
no,
yeah,
they're like culturally. I mean, they're not a. I've heard that they're not very big on like education and things like that. Is that true?
that is absolutely true. In fact, I'm thinking of a 1968 Awake magazine where it says that there's no point in going to college because the end is so near. And that culminated in a prophecy, false prophecy, in 1975. They expected Armageddon to happen. So if Armageddon's going to happen, then what's the point? Why should I go to college? Why should I seek a career? Why should I invest money? Why should I do these things?
Interesting. Yeah, because I know in my old culture, they would look down on you for not going to college, not expanding your education. You're expected to be very educated, and that's probably why you got the different video qualities between the two religions.
Well, the Watchtower's got a lot of money, not the billions that the Mormon Church does, but yeah, that is an interesting distinction that you're making. Is with Mormonism, yeah, it's education. With JWs, they look at that with disdain. If you are going to college, you should be out. They have a position called a pioneer, and that's someone who puts out a certain amount of hours. They've changed these hours. I don't even know what it is now, but you're expected to put in a certain amount of hours full time, either going door to door or standing out in public places like they do now more than going door to door. So it's like you're a full time, almost like a missionary. They're not missionaries, but yeah. So that's better. That's a better use of your time.
Gotcha. So, do you think it would make them uncomfortable if I talked too much about like my past and brought up similarities and stuff at this point? Like, is that something I should hold off doing?
Well, if it fits, do it. I mean, I wouldn't like ram it down their throat or make a concerted effort to bring that out every time. But if it fits normally and naturally with the flow of the conversation, go for it. And one of the things that I do, and of course I'm speaking to everybody now when I do this, is I pray my way through conversations. I'm not just trying to think of the next thing I want to say to them. I'm actively listening so that I can understand and then take it from there. But even still, like in Nehemiah, when Nehemiah was standing before the king and the king asks him a question, why are you so sad? It's illegal, basically, death sentence for you to be sad in the presence of the king. It mentions he prayed real quickly to God. It was kind of like I call them arrow prayers. It's like, whoosh, okay, the prayer goes up really quick. Okay, Lord, here I go. Help me with this. So that's kind of what I do, is I throw up these prayers as I'm going through the conversation, and I'm listening and I'm understanding, and Lord, is this the direction you want me to go? How do I navigate this position, or how do I say this in a way that I'm not offensive? Those kinds of things.
Okay, let me ask you this too. I think that's fantastic advice. Now, obviously, I'm thinking about like my time as a Mormon missionary, right? So I'd go after Christians specifically, especially if they were uneducated and weren't super biblically literate.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, as a Mormon missionary, my goal is, hey, the way you're going to know that this is true is by, praying about it, and you're going to get a subjective feeling. How are Jehovah's Witnesses going to be compared to that?
That is another great question. Yeah, seriously, good question. They're more cerebral, and it's kind of interesting because you've got educated Mormons who are more into subjective feelings, and you've got uneducated Jehovah's Witnesses who want to be more logical while at the same time relying on allegory, which is kind of an interesting mix. So for them, it's not a feeling. They're not going to pray and pray about the watchtower and be converted based off of the answer to a prayer. That's going to be through study. And the study is always going to be the literature. It's never going to be the Bible alone. Like I'm in a Bible study right now with my church, and we're going through the book of Ephesians. And the first thing we do is read the passage. You read, 10 chapter or 10 verses or whatever, and then you go through and you ask questions about what do you see in these verses. They don't have those kinds of studies. It's not a verse by verse kind of expository preaching, teaching, learning. It's all topical. So when a Jehovah's Witness is learning these things, it's all up here. And they're going to want you to come to their meetings eventually, and they love bomb you to death. You think the Mormon church is good at love bombing? You ain't seen nothing. JWs will be all over you, and you'll be the most popular person on the planet.
Cool. I love cookies, so as long as I get some cookies.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and I had when I was witnessing in Mansa, I had a Mormon lady come up to me. I had talked with her and her husband really got out of line. She put him in his place. Then she came back later on with a bumper sticker, and she says, "Come to the dark side. We have cookies." And I've still got the bumper sticker.
Yeah.
I laughed and I said, "Wait, who's the dark side? You or me?"
I always joke that when I was leaving, if they just left more cookies at my door, I might have stayed Mormon, but they just didn't put enough of an effort. So
yeah,
that's it.
yeah. Well, again, with the JWs, it's all going to be cerebral, and that love bombing. Once you get in there, they make you feel good. They make you feel important, and it's more of a. Well, I guess Mormonism does that too, where you've got new friends if you come in as a non-member. But this is different.
They turn you into a rock star.
Yeah. Total rock star. All right. Well, I am looking forward to doing our follow-up and see what God has through this. I think this is going to be a really cool thing to do with you or with other people who have JWs or Mormons and just kind of do these coaching sessions. I think this will be cool.
I think this is going to be really cool too. I was anxious about meeting with them, but after talking to you, I'm actually kind of excited to invite them over and have a conversation at the kitchen table and just see how it goes. So I will return and report.
Sounds great, man. I look forward to it.
Awesome.
Do you have a phone number for them?
Yeah. So the guy texted me one of the videos. Cool. So I think I'll just text him back and just say, hey, I would love to talk more with you guys. Next time you're in the area, just let me know.
Okay, cool. When you do set up with them, let me know because I'll have people praying for you during the meeting. So that's an important thing to do.
Got it. I will absolutely do that.
All right. So, any last questions before we log off?
No, I think you got my curiosity, stated, so we're good. Thank you so much.
Cool. Absolutely. This has been great. I love this kind of stuff.
All right, Keith. Well, good seeing you, and I'll talk to you later, man.
All right. Take care. Bye.